Warning. The Maverick marketer is not for the soft, timid, or faint-hearted. If you need permission or seek approval from your mother, spouse, mates in the pub, or anyone else for that matter, this really isn't for you. If any of what you've heard puts you off in the slightest, I advise you not to listen any further. You've been warned.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Maverick Marketer Unleashed, where I am joined by Terry and also Todd Gaster. Todd, how are you?
Fantastic, Nick. Thanks for having me on today.
It's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. Just for the benefit of the listeners, can you just give us a brief intro into your background?
Sure. I'm a business owner, a serial entrepreneur, professional entrepreneur, whichever you prefer. I opened my first business when I was 17. I've been in the personal development field for about 15 years now, and now I specialize in helping people to develop a wealth, abundance, and prosperity mindset.
Great stuff. Brilliant. So, can you tell us a bit more about what it is that you do now?
Sure. Basically, I've got two different things that I do. My specialty is I work with business owners, entrepreneurs, professional salespeople in developing a wealthy, abundant mindset. One of the challenges is, people will get a blueprint for success, and it'll say do step A, B, and C. They'll go out and do step A, B, and C, and they're still not successful. I work with the reasons why they're still not successful, even when they follow that blueprint.
Okay. So, why is that? Why is it that you'll get? You can give a bunch of people the same blueprint, the same plan, and you only get sort of a percentage of them that will be successful. Why is that? What is it that's holding everybody else back?
Well, a lot of it comes back to the beliefs, the values, the frames of mind, something I referred to as the matrix of meanings that people have about an event. You can give someone two separate people that, let's go in sales, for instance. You can give two separate people the exact same script with the exact same thing to say. And in a perfect world, you give them the same prospect, and one will sell them and one won't, even if they say the exact same thing. And what'll change is the belief, the self-talk, the dialogues, the values, and everything that the one person has versus the other, and that will change the intonation. It'll change the pauses. It'll change the what's the words? Well, I already talked about pauses, but anyway, it'll change their process and how they do it. Even if they say the exact same thing, it won't mean the same thing to the person listening to it.
And tell me, Todd, when that happens, do you think also that as the salesperson, and I use this word deliberately, trying to sell, that the potential client unconsciously is picking up those perhaps limiting beliefs and those disempowering beliefs? Oh,
absolutely. Absolutely. It's one of the reasons why that I always get a kick out of people say, I'm going to go do this, this positive, incantation. I like myself. I like myself. I like myself. And in the back of the mind, they're saying, oh, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this. Even though they're trying to talk to someone, it's not coming across authentic. Of course, authenticity is a big buzzword going on right now in the world, in the personal development world. But it's just like when you have someone who will tell you that, hey, I'm going to do this, and you walk away going, there's not a prayer in the world that person's going to do what they say they're going to do. You get that same feeling.
Okay. Awesome. And can you tell us about some of the challenges that you had when you first entered this space as a coach? What are some of the challenges that you found right in the beginning?
Oh, I made every mistake that there ever was when I first started coaching. One of the biggest things, and this you'll find that I kind of go against what the industry says. But one of the biggest mistakes that I did is I listened to all the coaching gurus out there telling me exactly how to run a coaching business. The challenge is most of the gurus teaching people how to run a coaching business have never run a coaching business. They've made their name and their success by teaching people how to be coaches when they themselves have never been a coach. Okay. And that's a big challenge. Things sound great. Things, it makes sense. but it's actually a huge mistake. And one of those biggest mistakes that is very popular right now is people love to give away free coaching sessions. They love to give away free coaching sessions, and that's one of the worst things that you could do for your coaching business.
Yeah.
For all kinds of reasons, not only what it does and what it tells the marketplace, but again, I specialize in wealth, abundance, and prosperity mindset. So if you're giving away your information, you're giving it away for free. What are you automatically presupposing in your mind, in your belief, in your neurology about your information?
Yeah, really good point there.
Yeah.
I've got a confession here to make, Todd. That
Yeah.
the confession is I did exactly the same, and I used to offer a 30-minute free coaching session.
Yeah.
And what I'd also add to that, Todd, that one of the challenges, the people that you attract. I found that I attracted people that, quite frankly, they couldn't afford coaching, and that's why they wanted to talk to you, because what you were offering them was free.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They want to go around and get as much free information as they can from as many different sources as they can. Hopefully that then someone will teach them or give them the golden nugget on how they're going to be able to convince other people to pay them.
Yeah.
I mean, the energy with that, the dichotomy, however you want to look at that. Let me get free information from you so I can convince other people to pay me. It's just not a good thing. But again, if you look in the big time gurus and those who make their living teaching other people how to be coaches, that's the number one thing that they tell you to do. In fact, there's a very large coach organization that you have to give pro bono work in order to be associated with them or licensed or certified through them. It's like it is completely setting up the wrong message for coaches. But again, like I said, I like to go against the grain.
Yeah, well, I just to repeat myself, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
100%. And we found that when we were doing that, we had major challenges, and it wasn't until we made that shift and kind of, I wish I could say it happened overnight, Todd. It didn't.
No. It's a big shift. It's a huge mindset shift. So I
mean, Todd. So it's a big mindset shift. But what was it for you? What was the trigger point that made you think, no, I'm not going to do it this way. I'm not going to give away free sessions anymore. What was the trigger point for you?
Well, the trigger point for me was, finally, it only takes so long to beating your head up against the wall before you figure out and say, this isn't the way to do this. And I had been coaching for many years, and I was not having. I was having the success. I was getting results, but I was not having success. And I mean, if you look at the coaching studies, there was a global coaching study a few years back, that came out and said that the average coach makes $48,000 a year. Well, okay, $48,000. So what's that? Maybe 30 or 35,000 pounds for you guys?
Yeah, not even that, but yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, not a whole lot of money, and these people are teaching other people how to be successful. And I was like, okay, there's some incongruence here.
Yeah.
And not that money is the end all be all version of success, but if you're in a life coaching capacity, if you were in a success coaching capacity, wouldn't you want to be successful in all areas of life?
Yeah, good point. Very good point there, Todd. Yeah.
Very good point. And again, I think what can happen is, and again, we spoke to clients like this, and again, in the beginning, we went through this as well, that you can end up feeling a bit like a fraud. I mean, you're out there telling all these people how to run their business, when deep down inside, you know that you're not getting the results that you're trying to help them get as well. And again, yeah, very good point there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it talks about congruence. I had a situation probably about 6-8 weeks ago. And this person contacted me. They were a business coach, and they were, a best-selling author, international best-selling author, as they like to say. Yeah. And they were upset that people were not listening to their nutrition advice. Now, they weren't even a nutrition coach. They were a business coach. But she was all upset that people were not listening to her nutrition advice. And so, I started asking some questions on why are we even having this discussion? And she says, well, I'm obviously successful in my own right. I have successful books. I've got a successful business. They should just know and trust what it is that I had to say. Well, I went to her Facebook page, and she was about 300 pounds.
Wow.
And again, no judgment. Hey, I used to be 320 pounds. I've got no judgment on someone who's overweight. But when I was 320 pounds, I wasn't telling anyone how to eat.
No, yeah.
If you wanted to learn how to put away a bunch of beer and some wings, man, I could help you. But there wasn't going to be any health or anything on that. But the thing that she was missing was that this was actually starting to harm her business coaching business. Because as she was telling people about nutrition, and they could obviously see that number one, she either didn't listen to her own advice or her advice was wrong. What other advice was she giving that was also wrong? And so it was, really starting to affect her business coaching. And that's one of the things that, as I was saying, that if we're going to be success coaches, if we're going to be life coaches, then we need to be successful in all areas, or at least not coach or attempt to coach in areas that we're not.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense. So Todd, one of the reasons that I reached out to you and I was keen to get you on the show is because you're sort of known for your 300K coaches blueprint, which shows coaches how to get from struggling to start or startup to 25K per month. Can you just tell us a bit more about that?
You're listening to Maverick Marketer Unleashed podcast. For show notes, additional resources, and podcast updates, head over to www.maverickmarketerunleashed.com.
Sure. That goes back to where I was saying that I had been a coach for many years and had been really struggling. I was getting results with clients, but I myself was struggling to live the lifestyle that I wanted to live. And I'd been following all these gurus on exactly what you were supposed to do and how you were supposed to do it, and you do this session, and then you give this session away free, and then all these different things. And anyway, I at the end of the day, I still had no clients. I had no clients. I had no name. I had no list. As everyone tells you, you've got to have all these, you've got to have a name in the marketplace, and you've got to have a list of people to market to, and all these things that they tell you got to do. I didn't have any of that. And I had made a shift in myself and what I was going to do. I kind of, and to answer your earlier question, I kind of, finally said enough was enough. What I was doing wasn't working. And so I changed my approach, and I went from zero clients, zero name, zero income, to $300,000 a year within 12 months.
Wow.
And so I put thank you. So I put my coach's blueprint together, which is the exact steps that I went through on how to do that. And so what this blueprint is designed is it's designed to take a new or struggling coach to $10,000 a month within 90 days, and then scale that up to $25,000 a month within 12 months.
Awesome. Brilliant, perfect. So, again, on that first 90-day period, if you were speaking to a coach right now who were just starting their business today, what advice would you give them if they wanted to do that in the first 90 days? What sort of 3 or 4 things would you say they must do if they want to achieve these results?
Well, there's 3 pillars to a coaching business. Really, three pillars to any business, but specifically put these down into a coaching context. The first pillar in any coaching business is self. It's be. Who are you being? How are you showing up? Are you congruent? Are you in integrity? Do you have the mindset necessary to achieve what it is that you want to achieve? As an example, because my personal coaching outside of the blueprint is, again, wealth, abundance, and prosperity mindset. You use you probably, if you've been in the personal development field, you probably heard of the Bruce Lee story about the cup. That you're pouring tea into the cup and you can only pour so much in, and then it overflows. Yeah. Okay. Well, if you have, let's expand that metaphor a little bit and say that you have a cup of income. Your metaphorical cup is able to handle $10,000 a month. If I give you $1 million a year business, you will turn that $1 million business into a $10,000 a month business, because that is all your cup can hold. So it doesn't matter the opportunity. It matters what your belief, who you are, what do you deserve, what does money mean to you, what are all these other things that mean to you. And it does. Again, I'm just using money because money is a scorecard.
Yeah.
Money is a scorecard for the amount of value that you bring to the marketplace, the amount of value that you bring to yourself, the amount of value you bring to the community. It's just really a scorecard, but it's a scorecard that we can all look at.
Yeah.
You know, I can't look at you and say, oh, see, now, boy, he feels 50% better than he felt yesterday. And there's no tangible thing with that. So that's why I default back to money. So the number one pillar in the coaching business is self, who you are showing up as, being. The second pillar is doing. Okay, so you've got being and doing. The doing is, do you have the ability to deliver the results that you say you're going to do? Can you deliver on the promise? Are you the best in the world at what it is that you do?
And on that, just a really good point there. So, do you believe then, Todd, if a coach doesn't have that belief that they can deliver, that belief alone is going to have quite a dramatic impact on their performance, I guess?
Oh, absolutely, a huge impact. And this actually leads to another challenge, is there are coaches out there that put their limiting beliefs on their clients.
Of course, yeah.
And it really limits the industry. It limits the results. It limits. There's so I could go all day on that. But there are coaches out there that put their limiting beliefs on their clients, and then because they've never achieved a certain amount, so there's no way that their client could achieve that, or this type of thing.
Yeah. So, that makes perfect sense. That does. Yeah.
Yeah. So the second pillar is the doing. So you've got the being and the doing and having the abilities. And if you don't have the abilities, do you have the resources and the wherewithal and the persistence and the resilience to go out and get those abilities? Will you go out and continue your education? Will you go out and continue to grow? This is another big issue that I see in the coaching world, is coaches who themselves don't have coaches.
Yeah.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
I personally think it's scandalous, and it should be made illegal, personally, that when coaches do that. I think it's so wrong.
It's unreal. Yeah. I mean, there are so many different things that come out of it. One of the easiest things that comes to mind quickest is that they're saying, I'm the end-all be-all. I am the greatest that there is. You will never need anyone outside of me, because I don't even need any additional coaching. I have achieved, which is really, really
nonsense.
Yeah. So that's the second one. So you've got the being and the doing, which is the self, and then the abilities, and then the third is the have. And I'm sure you've heard be, do, have before. I've just again put it into a coaching context. And the have is, do you have the business acumen to grow a business? Do you have the business acumen on how to market, how to develop your niche, how to handle the tax issues, how to handle all these different things that are going to be important to growing and scaling a business? And so those are the three key pillars to growing a coaching business: is be, do, have. Self, abilities, and acumen. And so when I am talking to coaches in the beginning, I find out that there's usually usually two of those that they're really deficient in, and so we focus on those, and that's how we're able to get such quick results. But the very first thing that coaches need to do is they need to find out who their target audience is, who their target market is, and that's coaches really struggle with that. And part of the reason that they struggle is we like to help. I mean, we want to help anybody and everybody. That's why we got into coaching in the first place, is we love to help. We love to contribute. We love to be out there and work with people. And so we don't want to limit ourselves in our mind as to who we're actually able to help. And so we'll just help everybody.
I can really relate to that. I know when I first started in business, I used to attend local networking events where you get other small business owners, and people would say to me, "What do you do?" And I say, "I'm a business coach, and I help small businesses." And Drew would tell her, "Well, we really struggled with that." Well, not say struggled with that. We weren't getting the business. But my background is recruitment and search, and the moment we decided to focus in on that one area and to position ourselves as the authorities in that area was when we had the biggest shift in our business.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because we knew exactly where the audience were, we knew where they were hanging out, we knew what their challenges were, and we could talk to them directly. And to this very day, we will get business even though we may be competing with another coach, because we're positioned as the experts in the staffing and recruitment business, as opposed to a conventional or more common business coach. And it's all about having that niche. And the point you made there about, we suffered with this. We were scared that if we narrowed our niche, there wouldn't be enough business. And that's a poverty mindset, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Poverty consciousness, scarcity, absolutely.
Yeah. But what we found is, I've heard it said many times, the narrow your niche. I know you guys pronounce that slightly different, but as we say, the narrower your niche, the broader your appeal.
Mm-hmm. Well, think of it as if you go into the metaphor I use is casting a fishing net. Everyone says cast this big net. Well, if you take a fishing net and you stretch it and you stretch it and stretch it, you get these huge holes that the fish can swim right through. But if you constrict that net down, the holes close and you focus in on the fish that you want. Now, the other thing that happens is just because you're marketing to a specific person or a specific avatar, a specific niche, doesn't mean that you are not going to appeal to other people. There are other people that will seek you out and find you. But but it's not, so you're not, even though mentally we think we're narrowing down, we're really, when you look at it energetically wise, you're actually expanding your reach, because people are drawn to people who know where they're going.
Yeah. Okay. Todd, just take it back a few steps, going back to the 3 pillars. So you said pillar 1 was about self, and you used a metaphor about having a bigger cup. I mean, how do you get a bigger cup? Let's say that there's a coach, trainer, consultant, or speaker listening to this right now, and their cup is the size of a $10,000 a month or £10,000 a month business. What do they want to do if they want to increase that? What do they have to do?
Well, that's actually what my personal coaching is the wealth and mindset. As I said, I had 2 areas. I do the wealth and abundance for my own personal coaching, and then I also teach coaches on how to build a coaching business. I'll give you an example on that. Is I had someone who I was working with, and one of the processes and things that we go through is we find out what the meaning of money is. What does money mean to you? And here I'll give you the sentence fragment. If I said people with money are, how do you finish that sentence? You don't have to say it now, but the first thought that comes to mind gives you an idea on some of your beliefs and values and matrix and stuff that you have around money. But this one person that we were working with, and we got to, and she was like, "Oh my gosh!" And I said, "What?" She said, "Well, money stinks." I said, "Money stinks." She said, "Well, yes." I said, "Okay, well, we need to find out a little bit more about this." Well, it turns out that she had grown up in a rural area where there was a bunch of farms, and they would be driving in the back roads, and they would come across a hog farm. Now, in this area, hog farms are pretty well-to-do. They're pretty wealthy, and so they'd be driving by the hog farms, and her mother would all of a sudden start sniffing and say, "Smells like money." This young girl brought that into her unconscious mind and grew up with the belief that money stinks. And so I asked her, I said, "So if you have something that stinks in your house, what do you do?" She says, "I throw it away." I said, "How much savings do you have?" She said, "None." Said, if something stinks, do you want more of it or less of it? She says, "Well, you want less of it." I said, do you do anything you can to get more of it? She says, "No." We were able to change this belief of money stinks, and I forget what we moved it into, but something obviously more empowering, and she doubled her income inside 30 days.
Wow. Well done, Todd. That's great.
Yeah. And the point of that is the ability was already there.
Yeah.
See, she had the second pillar. She had the ability. She could get the results. She had the skills. but she didn't have the mindset, or her cup was constricted.
So, I mean, let's look at that, Todd. Can you give us some examples of, so, I mean, what that's told me is that your childhood and the things you were exposed to when you were growing up are going to have a direct impact on your beliefs around money and wealth right now. Can you just give us some examples of some of your clients, what beliefs they've had? I mean, that one was a great example, but can you give us some sort of more examples that could be having a negative impact on someone's sort of wealth mindset right now?
Sure. I had another client. He was this one was a doctor, and so he had a fairly good income, fairly high income. And one of the challenges that he came across is whenever he would go to buy anything, he would immediately say, "I can't afford it." It didn't matter if he was buying a pair of shoes or a Maserati. It came out, "I can't afford it." Okay. And so this would limit him and his decision making. It would also limit him in his business, and maybe if he needed to spend some money for some new equipment for his office, "I can't afford it." Maybe if he needed to hire a new, receptionist or something, and "I can't afford it." So it really limited him in his ability to scale and to scale his business. And so again, we went through a process, and we transformed "I can't afford it" into "I'm an excellent money manager." And so I asked him, I said, "If you're an excellent money manager," and before I could say anything else, he says, "then I can afford anything that I want."
Excellent. Some great examples there, Todd.
Yeah.
So, well, and something to point out, that is one of the reasons why it is good to have, to learn how to build a coaching business from someone who is a coach, because they can give you real life examples of things that happen.
Yeah.
And that's I guess if there was something that I was crusading against, it's these people teaching people how to be coaches that have never coached.
No, it's a good point. Okay, so Todd, if you had to recommend just one book to a coach, trainer, consultant, or speaker, what would that be?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and it's a funny book. It's got the name of the book, the title of the book really puts people off. And so this is a great example of don't judge a book by its cover, or in this case, don't judge a book by its title. And the name of the book is Winning Through Intimidation.
Yeah, know it well.
And by Robert Ringer.
Yeah.
And I think it is a great book. And again, most people have trouble getting by that title, but it is a great, great book.
Could you give us a summary of that for people that aren't familiar with that book?
Well, it gives examples of when he was growing up and going through and getting sales jobs and so forth, on the different types of people that he would encounter, and how some would try to intimidate, and how you'd have one guy as what he referred to as holding court. And you can see these types of things all the time. You go into a networking event, you've got one guy talking, and he's got 15 people around him, all just sitting there, sitting there hanging on every word that he says. He's holding court. It's a different type of mindset, and versus the person who is there, really to give and give and take. So it's an interesting book. It talks about a lot of different personality types that you're going to encounter in the business world, and that's probably why, Terry, you're familiar with the book, being from in the business side and staffing and so forth.
Yeah.
So it's a very good book. I would recommend everyone picking it up.
Yeah, I'm racking my brains as you're talking, Todd, because there's some great quotes from it.
Yes.
But we'll have to dig them out. But it is a great book, and it's often quoted. Yeah, and thanks for reminding me, actually, because I've forgotten what a great book that is. So thanks for that.
Sure.
Great stuff. So, I mean, again, just to break up the interview a bit, Todd, can you just tell us something about yourself that not many people know, and an unusual experience or story?
Sure. It kind of gives you a little bit of a background on myself. At one point, how I got in working with where people actually came through working with dogs. I used to own one of the largest dog training facilities in the state that I was living in at the time. And at one point, I also bred and trained German Shepherds for Schützen, which is a dog sport, involves tracking, obedience, and protection work. And so at one point we had 30 German Shepherds. So it was that's always a fun thing that people get a kick out of.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and
I guess you guys call them Alsatians, but you know.
That's right. That's right. And you mentioned also that you did you say you had your first business at 17?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
What was that?
That was a delivery business. I had contracted with Walmart, and I was delivering. I guess you could say it's in the pet industry, but I was delivering their tropical fish to a bunch of different stores. So I was a delivery driver. I worked with and set up a route and everything to some pet stores and the Walmarts and everything to deliver their tropical fish.
Oh, I see. Excellent.
Okay.
So if that was when you were 17, that was what, 3 or 4 years ago then, Todd?
Yeah, that was just a little bit ago.
Yeah, I know that one.
Yeah.
So, Todd, you're a serial entrepreneur. Can you sort of tell us about one of the biggest challenges that you've had in any one of your businesses where things weren't going quite so well, things that sort of nearly even came to an end, and then what you did to overcome that challenge?
Yeah, well, I've actually had a couple businesses that not only nearly came to an end, but did come to an end.
Okay.
And a couple different scenarios that came around that. And one of the things that I pride myself on, that we all have gifts and so forth, and I think one of the gifts that I have is my ability for resilience. I seem to somehow be able to handle whatever is going on. And my dog training business and the breeding business, when that was back when we had 9/11. And so I was basically shut down from shipping dogs for like 6 months.
Wow.
And that creates an issue when I ship dogs in and out of the country and left and right, and I can't get dogs to where they need to go and so forth. And so that created a very big issue for my business. And then ultimately we ended up closing, as we were also in an area that was supplied, a lot of the employment was by defense contractors, which strangely enough at that time ended up getting a lot of layoffs. And so it was really a rough time for that business. And really having the resilience and say, hey, you know what, hey, this doesn't define who I am. This is just another challenge to overcome and to learn from, and to take the lessons from them and protect your businesses going forward.
And do you tell me, Todd, do you think those challenging experiences make you a better coach today?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, some of the challenges that I've had in my life, and they're on my webinars, so this is nothing that people can't hear or find out. But I've been bankrupt. I've had cars repossessed. I've had my house repossessed. And funny, so how can you have a house repossessed? Well, it was a double wide trailer. They back a tow truck up to it and pull it away.
Wow.
So I've had all kinds. So when people come to me and they say I don't have any money, I'm going, yeah, I didn't either. I didn't have a house. I didn't have cars. There was times I was working 3 jobs and a paper route, delivering papers. So it makes me a better coach, but it also it allows me to, because I can relate to so many different people. I can relate to so many different, just like with my health when I was 320 pounds. I couldn't move. I couldn't do things. I had all these health challenges. There was, the doctor thought I was going to die. So when I talk to people, I can talk to them, number one, through my heart, because I have a real good idea on some of the thought patterns that they're doing, some of the things that they're going through.
Yeah.
So it absolutely makes me a better coach.
And you talked about your business challenges, and you talked about your weight. Those shifts you made from the challenges you're facing to where you are now, did they all happen at the same time, or was it one thing after another?
It pretty much everything changed all at once because they all relate to each other.
Yeah.
The same thing and beliefs that I had that allowed me to be 320 pounds were the same beliefs that I had around money, and deservedness, and do I deserve to be wealthy? Do I deserve to have a great marriage? I mean, my marriage was, if you can imagine, my marriage sucked at the time too. Now in 24 years later, it'll be 24 in November. It's the greatest thing in the world. Having my best friend with me, it's an amazing experience. But all of that shifted all at the same time. And it took a little bit for everything to catch up. Obviously I didn't lose the 120 pounds, just overnight. Actually 150 total. But it didn't happen overnight. I mean, it took a while, but the shifts mentally changed.
Yeah.
And there was shifts in finances that had to I had to pay for the previous past decisions that I had made.
Yeah.
And that type of thing. But yeah, everything pretty much all at once.
Awesome. I mean, so talk to us about that. I mean, you said that obviously you've made the mental shift. Sort of, there's obviously a lag time between when you've made the mental shift to when you actually see the results. I mean, can you talk about that? How do you? I mean, I imagine that in that period, there's times where you thought about giving up, times where you perhaps had other challenges that encountered you on the way. How did you overcome those?
Well, there absolutely, things didn't shift right away. There is that lag time, and then there's also doubt, disappointment, discouragements, and things that creep in.
Yeah.
And so the question goes back to one of the things I alluded to earlier. Is I have a tremendous strength in my resilience, and that I'm going to get to the other side. It doesn't matter. The resilience is basically the ability to bounce back from setbacks, those disappointments and discouragement. And so really what it comes down to is when I'm talking with people is what I find is this what I refer to as inner esteem. People talk about having a high level of self-esteem. I don't believe you have high self-esteem or you have low self-esteem. Esteem is simply finding value for oneself. Finding value in who you are. You either esteem yourself or you don't. And that's where a lot of people have trouble. And then we hear this that you're supposed to raise your children with a high level of self-esteem. But then you ask people, how do you do that? Oh, well, let's put them in a martial arts class or something that they can get good at and they'll feel good about themselves. And it's like, okay, well, that's great. That's confidence. That's not esteem. Confidence is based on your past performance. Confidence is contextualized. Just because I'm confident driving down the road doesn't mean if you put me on the Autobahn that I'm going to feel just as comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay, it's contextual. All right. So esteem is simply finding value in yourself simply because you're on this planet, simply because you were born. There's value in who you are. You love yourself. And the esteem comes from, there's three pillars. You'll notice I love to do things in three, is acceptance, appreciation, and awe. Accepting who you are, accepting everything that you've gone through, accepting that, there was some mistakes in the past and I'm not continuing to make them. You accept them. You appreciate who you are. You appreciate the things that you've gone through. You appreciate the lessons, the learnings that you've been able to take. And then you're in awe of yourself for who you are. And you take this acceptance, appreciation, and awe, and now you have an esteem. And when you esteem yourself, then you find value, then you love yourself, then there's no question of, do I deserve to make $10,000 a month or $100,000 a month or $1 million a month?
You're listening to Maverick Marketer Unleashed podcast. For show notes, additional resources, and podcast updates, head over to www.maverickmarketerunleashed.com.
And you talk a lot, Todd, about resilience. What would you say to coaches, trainers, consultants who say, yeah, but Todd, I haven't got that resilience?
Well, the great thing about it is there's a structure to it. There's a structure to resilience, just like there's a structure to happiness. There's a structure to anything. And learning what that structure is, and especially coaches, and coaches who specialize in Whether it doesn't matter if you're a business coach or you're a weight coach, a nutrition coach or a life coach, you specialize in the mind. Because the mind runs everything. The mind runs your business. The mind runs your nutrition. So you specialize in the mind. And really, what resilience is there's a structure to it and a process that you can develop and train yourself, just like anything else, to be resilient. And one of the first steps about that is being observant. Can you step back and just observe? Can you just, like people watch? You go out to a mall or something, and you just sit down and you watch, and you just people watch. You step back and you observe. You observe everything that's going on, and then you can build from that into resilience. And there's a process to it. So yes, absolutely. A lot of coaches don't have resilience, for wealth, there's two keys to building wealth, and that's persistence and resilience. Resilience, obviously, is what we were just talking about, but the persistence is to continue. Continue along the path that you originally said. Do you have the resilience to handle the setbacks that are going to come? And do you have the persistence, because it may take longer than you thought, do you have the persistence to continue through to achieve the goals that you say you're going to achieve? Or is the next shiny object that comes through going to distract you?
And for many people, it will be the next shiny object that will distract them.
Absolutely, absolutely. In the coaching world, there are so many shiny objects.
Yeah.
You can't go on Facebook. You can't log on there without seeing 18 different people trying to tell you how to build a coaching business.
Yeah.
Oh, you just need this one last thing. Just this one thing here. This will do it. So.
Okay, so Todd, I mean, you've talked about some of the mistakes that you had in the beginning, and you've talked about sort of following gurus who haven't actually run a coaching business. But apart from those, can you tell us what you think some of the biggest mistakes coaches, trainers, and consultants make when starting a coaching business?
The biggest mistake that I think people do is they don't identify their market. They don't identify their ideal client.
Yeah.
And when I talk about who is your ideal client, I mean specificity. I mean, I want to know their name. I want to know their age. I don't want to know that they're 35 to 43. I want to know how old are they. I want to know, are they male, female, married, divorced, widowed, separated, kids, how many, boys and girls, ages, what is their job, what is their job title, what do they do, what do they lay at night, dreaming about, what are their wants, what are their needs, what are their desires, what keeps them awake at night. What are these things that wake them up? Nobody wakes up in the middle of the night going, I need to hire me a life coach. That's not the thought. The thought is, oh my God, my kid is going to graduate from high school. How am I going to pay for college? Oh my God, the electric is going to get cut off next week. Those are the things that come to mind. So what are their wants, needs, and desires? What are the things that keep them up at night? I want very, very, very specific. Down to the most minutiae detail. And then that is the person that you are going to market to. That is who you are going to design all of your marketing and all of your flyers and whatever. You're speaking to that person. And then people say again, as we talked about earlier, well, now I'm limiting myself. No, you're not. It actually makes it so much easier because now you know who to talk to, and you don't sit in front of a screen going, all right, what do I say? Well, if you're talking to Bob, you know how to talk to Bob, so talk to him.
And what I'd add to that as well, when you do that, is that because you then understand their problems, and you said then you know their name and everything. It really helps if you're writing copy, because you know exactly who you're talking to.
Exactly.
And exactly what their problems are.
Yeah.
It's a really good point there.
Sorry, so Todd, if I'm completely new to this, how do I know who my ideal client is? How do I find that information out?
Well, one of the first things is, what problems have you had in the past that you've solved yourself?
Okay.
That's one of the first questions, is because if you're brand new, I mean, you've got to develop a niche or something somehow.
Yeah.
Or if I borrow your guys' phrase, niche. So
come on, just say you're not borrowing it now. You're now saying it correctly.
Yeah. You're now speaking English.
See, I'm working on it. If I start talking about going to the loo, then we'll have an issue. But so what problems have you solved in the past? What are you passionate about? What is of interest to you? Okay. Then you can also look at, all right, well, who are your friends? Tell me about your friends. Who are they? I mean, they're obviously people you want to work with. So one of the rules that I have before I'll take on any client is this someone that I could see myself sitting on a beach sipping a Mai Tai with?
Awesome.
If I can't say yes, we're not working together.
That's a great question. Yeah, love it.
So that's also why then there's a lot less stress in dealing with my clients. Is because these are all people that I want to work with, all people that I want to associate with. And a follow-up with that is would I trust this person alone in my house with my family if I wasn't there? That's how I look at for me to find clients.
And so what are the implications if you break those rules? So if I'm a coach, trainer, consultant, or speaker, and I'm at this moment in time, I'm working with people who I perhaps don't like, or perhaps wouldn't have a drink at the bar with, or perhaps wouldn't trust my family. What are the sort of long and short-term implications of doing that?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is stress. And if you are constantly stressed, if you look at your calendar and see that you have your session coming up with XYZ, and your heart starts racing because, oh my God, I can't believe I got to talk to this person again. Okay, you are doing them a disservice because you will not be at your best. You will not be as nice and as you want to say how great you are and kumbaya and all this other stuff. You will not be at your absolute best when you are on the phone with that person, or if you're face-to-face, or however your coaching is. You will not be fully 100% present. And that goes back to some of the other things that I teach. I talk about responsibility to and responsibility for. I have a responsibility to my client to be 100% present.
Yeah.
To continue to grow myself, to continue to better myself, to make sure that I am prepared when I'm speaking with them. I have a responsibility to my client to be the absolute best of my ability. I do not have a responsibility for my client to actually get the training and the coaching and the transformation. That is their responsibility. See, there's a responsibility to and a responsibility for. Now, if I am working with someone who I don't want to be working with, I have failed in my responsibility to.
Yeah.
And that's what I can. The only thing I can control is myself. Everything behind my nose and toes is mine. Everything in front of my nose and toes is not mine.
Awesome.
I can only control myself. And so I have a responsibility to my client. I don't have a responsibility for my client. And so some of the other things that can come out if I'm working with someone that I don't want to work with, besides to me, and that's kind of like the prime directive. If I'm not 100% present, that's an issue. But then, there's some other things. It could be hurtful to the client. There could be, some danger. There could be, it just grows. It's just not a good situation. And so if you have clients who are not your ideal client, people you don't want to work with, the best thing you can do, refer them out.
Yeah.
Refer them out to somebody else.
Yeah, and this sort of ties in nicely with the wealth mindset that you talked about in the beginning, because I think one of the big reasons, and again I've been there, one of the big reasons you're reluctant to get rid of a client is because you got a poverty mindset. Again, you don't know where the next paycheck's coming from.
Well, exactly, and that's one of the big issues that coaches have is they don't know when the next, and this also goes back to where putting their own limiting beliefs on their clients and keeping clients held down is because they don't, they know how hard they work to get that client that they got, and if that one goes, where's the next paycheck coming? But man, I got to go do all that stuff again to get another client, and so they may not consciously. It may be more unconsciously, I'll give the benefit of the doubt, that they're actually limiting their client and slowing their growth and their progress, hoping to keep them longer.
Yeah.
instead of getting the result and getting them out. It's, my wife, she laughs at me all the time, and she loves to tell me, she said, I'm too good at what I do because, my clients, they're here and they're gone. They get the result and they're gone. I'm like, well, that's my idea. That's what I'm supposed to do, is I get them the result and move on.
Mm. And it's, again, so everything you're saying I agree with 100%, but I've never looked at it from the point of view that actually you're sabotaging your client as well as sabotaging yourself.
Yeah. And we as coaches, why did we go into coaching in the first place? I can't imagine that we were sitting in school and said, I can't wait, I want to be a coach when I grow up. That's not the thoughts that come to mind. So something happened, something triggered us, something brought us into this industry, and it's usually, from everything that I've talked to, the people that I've interviewed, we like to help people. We believe we're here to help others, in whatever capacity that is. And so because of that, some of these other things crop up.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100% on a personal level, that about wanting to help people, and having this feeling that I would be good. I would be good at it as well.
Yeah.
But I remember very well. I mean, when I was at school, there wasn't such a thing as coaches and so on. But it was always something I wanted to do. I wanted to help other people because I thought, I just thought I would be good at that. Mm-hmm. It's I've never really considered that until you just said there, Todd. So thanks for that.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, so, again, Todd, what's the biggest breakthrough that you've had in your business this year? Can you share with us what that is and how it came about?
My biggest breakthrough in business this year. I think one of the things that, for me, I've always been a possibility thinker. What is possible? And I thought I was a very big thinker. Yeah. And I have my own coach. Again, I practice what I preach. I have my own coach. I'm in masterminds and so forth. And I had this one individual that I worked with, but really expanded my mind as to what was possible. I use this story as there was a time in my life when I thought, if I could just make $5,000 a month, life would be great. And then there was a time it's like, man, if I could just make $10,000 a month, life would be great. And then it became $25,000, and then it became $50,000, then it became $100,000. I won't go into what it is now, but as really expanding the belief about what is possible, and what is not only about what is possible, but what is possible in the coaching industry, the coaching world. I talk to coaches all the time that have a full practice that have no time.
Yeah.
And I talk to coaches who have all the time in the world, but they have no money. And again, I go back to the belief that we as coaches need to be the example of what is possible. About what is possible in the world, whether we're talking about business, whether we're talking about nutrition, whether we're talking about wealth, it doesn't matter what, relationships, spirituality. We need to be the example of what is possible. And so the biggest growth, the biggest breakthrough that I had this year was really expanding my own cup, which I thought was pretty expanded anyway, as to what was possible, and really blew my own mind. And that's the power of having a coach and having a mentor. Is really expanding what I thought was possible.
Awesome, brilliant, Todd. Where can people go to find out more about what you do?
Easiest way is to either grab me on LinkedIn or on Facebook, and that's Todd Gaster, G-A-S as in Sam, T as in Tom, E-R, and those are the two easiest ways to find me. If you want to connect with me up on Twitter, although I'm not as I do have a large following on Twitter, but I don't check it very often. That's My Wealth Coach is on Twitter. But LinkedIn and Facebook are the easiest. Just look me up on Todd Gaster. I'm the only one on LinkedIn, I believe. And Facebook, just look for the skinny guy.
Awesome. Great stuff. So again, final question, Todd, if you had to recommend one piece of technology or a plugin that would make life easier for a coach, trainer, consultant, or speaker, what would it be? So it could be an app, a bit of technology, whatever it is.
You know, I really don't. I guess the best thing would be really having a good CRM, a customer retention management system. That would be the best thing that I would say as far as technology, making sure that you're able to touch your prospects, to touch your clients, to really get your message out there, because we all want to have an impact. We all want to, and I'm going to put my beliefs on people now. We all want to leave a legacy. We are going to leave something behind. It's just whether or not that legacy is going to be one that we want it to be, or one that just happens to happen. And so what is the impact that we're going to leave behind? And so you have that CRM, that customer retention management, to allow you to develop that, whether you're making videos, emails, newsletters. So an app that I actually just jumped on just recently is Periscope. And I haven't got it set up and running yet, but that's a big thing that seems to be going on right now, where we can stream. It's kind of like Twitter, except it's with video.
Yeah.
So that I think is going to have some huge applications, and really allow us to speak our heart, to talk to people, to really have the impact that we want to have in life.
Awesome. Brilliant. Excellent. Todd, again, thanks ever so much for sparing the time to do this. It's been really inspiring, actually. Don't know how you feel about it, Terry, but I think
it's really fantastic, Todd. Thank you very much indeed. Some real gems there.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you guys, and of course all your listeners. And it's an honor to be able to really imagine that I get to do this all every day, to live the life that we were designed to live how we were designed to live, and so I thank you guys for that, and I honor you for reaching out to me and putting this together, and increasing your own impact and the impact that you're having on the world, and by the coaches that you're helping, and the coaches and the people that they're going to go out and touch. You guys are doing a great job, so I thank you for that as well.
Thank you, Todd.
Thanks a lot, Todd. I will speak with you again soon. Until then, take care, take action, and be relentless.
You're listening to Maverick Marketer Unleashed podcast. For show notes, additional resources, and podcast updates, head over to www.maverickmarketerunleashed.com.